25 years to the movie that made us all second guess our reality. We're doing The Sixth Sense. Welcome to the No More Late Fees podcast. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Jackie. And we're just two best friends and ex-Blockbuster employees rewatching some of the best and worst movies from the late 90s and early 2000s. This week, we are talking about the 1999 M. Night Shyamalan spooky classic, The Sixth Sense. But before we dive in, let's get into some
housekeeping.
If you love the podcast and you want to support us, here are a few ways that you can.
Did you know writing a review and/or rating us helps us get more listeners? If you want to be featured and help us grow, head to Apple, Spotify, Podchasers, iHeartRadio, Good Pods, or your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review.
And if you like what you hear and want to buy us a virtual cup of coffee, head on over to ko-fi.com/no-more-late-fees.
And if you want to buy our merch and support us that way, head over to nomorelatefees.redbubble.com and check out all the cool things we have in our shop.
But this week, we are not alone. We are so excited to have our returning guest, Simone, back to join us. Hello, Simone.
Hey, y'all. So happy to be back.
We're so excited to have you back.
We are. I love that you do the spooky movies with us.
Oh, this is my jam, man. If I'm not watching like a silly musical, I'm going like scary all the way.
If you want to get to know Simone a little better, come back later this week as we count down our favorite ghost movies. And don't forget to go back to check out Simone during our Love and Basketball 7 and MTV VMA episodes and bonus episodes. Check out our show notes for all of the links. Okay, let's dive into The Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense is a psychological thriller that follows child psychologist Dr. Malcolm Crowe as he tries to help a young boy named Cole Sear, who claims to see and communicate with the dead. As Crowe delves deeper into Cole's troubled mind, he discovers a shocking truth that changes everything he thought he knew about life and death. This haunting tale of grief, fear, and redemption is remembered for its masterful twist ending and chilling atmosphere. The movie stars Bruce Willis, Haley Joel Osment, Toni Collette, Olivia Williams, and Donnie Wahlberg. It was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and you can currently watch it on Max. But before we start, let's get into our ratings rewind.
So you know the drill. Before we get into the movie, we'll reveal the rating our Y2K versions of ourselves would give. Then at the end, we'll see if our current selves agree with our initial rating. Scale consists of would buy it again.
The best, would play on repeat.
5-day rental.
Would watch again.
2-day rental.
Okay, but nothing to write home about.
And same-day rental.
Trash. Burn it up. Cremate it. Trash.
So Simone, what was your Y2K rating of The Sixth Sense?
So first of all, I'd like to apologize because whenever someone asks me a question, I can never give the answer directly. You need like a 5-minute story with background context. So I hope this episode isn't like 3 hours. I lovingly have the gift of gab. But when I saw this in the theater, I knew that this movie was unlike any other scary movie I had seen. And I feel like I still kind of feel the same way about it. We owned this on DVD, and it was a DVD that I brought back to my house when I had to do the great garage clean out. So it is with me. But yeah, it was definitely a would buy it again.
Jackie?
So I went on a field trip to see this movie for our video production class.
Oh,
our TV
fun.
production class. That's not like Ken said that he was really scared and ran out of the theater. I was like, I went on a field trip to see this movie, and you were a grown man running out of the theater because you were scared. Just getting that out there. But definitely it was right after I had started working at Blockbuster that this came out on VHS and DVD and was just breaking records for sales and stuff. So I definitely owned this movie. Danielle?
You know what? I never checked to see. Hold on. I know what my rating is, but let me just make sure I'm not telling on myself in the wrong way. All right. I too have a story. I think I've said it a few times on the podcast, but just as a refresher. I saw this movie with a girl I was friends with in high school, and I'm now learning more and more that apparently I have some sort of level
Sixth
of
Sense?
ADHD. No. I'm not really sure what it is, but I do this thing whenever I'm watching like a murder mystery or anything where there is something to be solved, baby girl is trying to figure it out. And especially I think because I've watched so many movies and TV shows that it's rare at this point for anything to shock me.
Mhm.
So I think one of the first lessons about like how my brain works was this movie. So we went to go see it. No big problem. Jackie already knows a bitch be talking to her in a movie, whether she wants to or not. Can't help it sometimes. So the moment where Bruce Willis's character reaches out for his wife when they're at the restaurant to pay for the check, I
Mhm.
was like, he dead. And that's it. That's what I said. My friend was livid. She was so mad. I think
Oh
we
my God.
stopped being friends because of that incident. And I didn't know I was gonna be right. I should have kept it in, but, like, it was, like, almost like an intrusive thought, like, I had to say it. So, just her response and the experience and the tension probably made me not love the movie, but also because I figured it out so quickly that watching the rest of the movie was just, like, kind of boring for me at that point. So, I do not own it, and I don't think I've seen the movie in its totality until, like, over again since not till last night.
So
It
what's
it
your
just
rating?
never seemed like something I would wanna watch over and over again. With that said, I guess 2-day rental
Okay.
because I don't hate it, and we all know this is the fucking best thing that M. Night's made. This
Yeah.
movie set the precedent. It's like
It's kind of unfortunate that this was like his first big movie and
yeah,
that people expect going forward, you're going to have some kind of a twist and how I mean, in a lot of his films, he still tries to incorporate some kind of like fun reveal at the end.
Yeah.
But now that's what people's like purpose is going in. They're like trying to Rubik's Cube it ahead of time to
yeah,
like, oh, that's it. This is it. This is the twist.
Yeah.
But also just like the writing quality, like storyline aside, like you can have a great idea for a story or a movie, but like if your script sucks
Yeah.
or if your characters are not like The Happening is like one of the most funniest comedic movies of all time and it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
no.
Ugh.
This movie, after rewatching it, just gives me vibes of like, people read To Kill a Mockingbird and wonder if Harper Lee wrote it. They talk about if Truman Capote actually wrote it or helped her with
Mm.
it. It's that kind of vibe. I'm not saying that she did it. I'm just saying it's like you look at it and then you look at the other materials and you're like, did you make a deal? Like, what is this? What's going on? Because I haven't felt him get to this level ever again. Let's dive into this movie's budget. So the movie had a budget of $40 million, which I was like, okay, the way that M. Night talks about this kind of gives indie vibes sometimes. Like it was a sleeper hit. So I was like, that's a pretty good hefty budget. So I was kind of surprised by that. But listen, like $672.8 million worldwide. Like that is mind-boggling.
If they hadn't had a Star Wars come out that year, like leaps and bounds would have been the largest grossing movie.
Facts. Because, like I said, it was a sleeper hit and it surpassed expectations and became one of the highest grossing films of 1999, which we've talked about this plenty of times that 1999 was that girl. Like,
Mhm.
the movies that came out that year were insane.
Yep.
And it was the second highest grossing film of that year, only behind Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which still to this day perplexed how they got us all to go see that shit. But what I find the most interesting about this whole thing was that David Vogel, the then president of production of Walt Disney Studios, he read Shyamalan's spec script and loved it. And without obtaining corporate approval, he bought the rights despite the price of it being $3 million and the stipulation that Shyamalan could direct the film, which, unheard of. But he did it. And Disney said, word, dismissed, fired. So
Dismissed.
he was dismissed from his position at the studio, and then he left the company shortly thereafter. Disney then sold the production rights to Spyglass Entertainment while retaining the distribution rights and 12.5 of the film's box office takings. I would say this whole thing was a really fucking stupid move on Disney. But I get it, because here you have a director, writer, a director, because he had written things that did well, but a director that hadn't had big movies or anything pop off for him, and he's a man of color. Like, I'm sure Disney was like, we're just gonna bite this. We'll lose the money, whatever. But I think later they went and tried to get the distribution rights for some of the foreign distribution because it did so well here. So they fucked up. So, Simone, do you want to read this? It's your boy, Lil Raj.
Yes. Okay, so I actually didn't look up his review ahead of time because I wasn't sure if you guys had the numbers, and I wanted to try and guess to see if my guess was the same as his. But if I were a betting person, I would say Lil Raj gave this movie 3 stars because he would have liked it for the character development of it. Maybe not so much. I think he would have said oh yeah, the plot surprised me, but I could see some things. But anyways, I digress. Lil Raj from the Chicago Sun-Times says The Sixth Sense is a delicate, emotionally intense film, and it suggests that Night Shyamalan is a natural filmmaker, someone who knows how to weave original stories out of the deep human feelings. This is the kind of movie where once you understand the ending, you want to go back and watch it all over again, which I agree with. It's a totally different experience going back and seeing it afterwards.
It is.
I think go ahead, Danielle.
No, I was just like, I don't know how many thumbs up. Oh, he gave it 3 stars. Okay, sorry.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, I had to go look it up. Sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I think Roger Ebert is onto something, because I think aside from this, there's very little human emotion in his subsequent films, which is his strong suit. That's why this movie works so well. And so when you get into and truth be told, I've never watched The Village in its entirety, but I think the only thing that remotely touches on the emotion like The Sixth Sense does is Signs, and that would be my second favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie.
But that's so true. I think at the heart of this movie, it's about a single mom who's trying to support her kid the best way she can, a family that's dealing with grief, dealing with divorce, and wanting to support your kid, but not necessarily knowing how, or maybe even having the resources to do it. And then you have Dr. Crow's second storyline and all that, but it's just I found myself tearing up last night for the first time watching this movie, of really, really processing those emotions that the characters went through.
And I think it's just and that's what I love about us doing the show, because it's just such a really eye-opening activity, I guess you could say, or opportunity. Even if we rewatch some of these movies 30 years from now, all of them might hit different because we've had different lived experiences. And I think I definitely, like you said, cried because I can empathize. When I saw the mom, I saw my mom, I saw myself, essentially, knowing that you have a child or someone you very much care about, that you're the ward of, and you feel like something is wrong, but there's nothing you can do about it. The grieving aspect of her grieving her mother, I now know what that feels like, losing a parent, and then all the other stresses, and then going to therapy and learning that all of my trauma from my childhood makes me prone to be a people pleaser. And so watching him having to like make decisions that no child should really have to make and feel safe to like tell his mom, but watching her as a single mother, if you've ever had a single parent, knowing that you don't want them to worry, but you see them stressing, you see them going through it.
Yes.
So it's just like so many layers that I did, you know, I didn't have when I first saw this movie. So I think it was so much better to watch it this time around.
Yeah.
And from the perspective of like being married, like his wife grieving and like watching their wedding video every night
Yeah.
and like having to have dinner alone and things like that. Like it's just it was so emotional and so heartbreaking. And so like looking at it from that perspective, which is why you have to watch this movie a couple of times, because the first time through you're just trying to figure out like what's going on. And
Right.
then on the rewatch, you see that like Cole not wanting to scare his mom. And so he's taking all of this emotion that he shouldn't have to be taking and kind of bottling it up because he doesn't want to scare his mom. His mom trying to reach him and she doesn't know how. And then the whole grieving relationship of losing a spouse. So it was just, it's a lot, but like
Yeah.
it's done beautifully on all
Yes.
aspects.
And we can be describing a totally different movie. There's ghosts in this too.
Yes.
So like you
Yes.
also forget that there's like someone with like a blown out skull
Yeah.
Yeah.
casually strolling down your living room. And it's like, oh, right. It's also a scary movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so incredible. And that's so rare for those kinds of genres to kind of mash together and do it well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think that it has to be said that Haley Joel Osment was robbed. There's this thought process in Hollywood that, that these young actors are going to get another chance later on to win and they have to, repay. Like there's so many times when people win Oscars and not because the movie they did was well, received, but because it's owed to them, quote unquote. And I've seen so many young, very young actors who just don't win because of that idea. And he carried this movie. Like, obviously, Bruce Willis did a great job, but this kid, like, the emotions he's able to draw at, his mannerisms,
Yeah.
you really believe that him and Toni Collette are mother and child. Like,
Yeah, he's so
he,
believable. And at first, like, I don't think he was not the first draft for this. Michael Cera, I think,
Yeah.
auditioned to be in the role. And
yeah,
so, which, what a different movie that would have turned out to be, a different
Yeah.
universe. But
yeah,
I think originally M. Night was looking for someone that was like a little bit more like dark and brooding. And he saw Haley as this like beautiful cherub that we saw, this precious little boy. And that ended up working so well because he just constantly looked so sad and heartbroken and torn to pieces and like ready to cry at the drop of a hat. I mean, you just wanted to like reach through the screen and like be like, I'm sorry, let me give you a hug.
Well, the film was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay for M. Night Shyamalan, Best Supporting Actor with Haley, who didn't win, and Best Supporting Actress for Toni Collette. The fact that that woman, I could go on a whole dissertation about the fact that that woman has not received her Oscar yet,
Yeah.
is a fucking crime.
So she was our top list if we were going to go on to do a season 3 for roll call. She was going to be it. And so I admire her work ethic, all of her films. Anytime I see her, I remember like going forward, any movie I saw, I'd be like, oh, that's the mom from Sixth Sense. Like to me, this was the
Yeah.
first thing that I saw her in. And she continues to hold her own in any kind of role that she's playing, but particularly like a pissed mom. She's really
can
good
play
at that.
anything. Like
Anything.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about Hereditary because I never seen it, but everyone talks about it. And I first saw her on Muriel's Wedding. I think that was in 94. And then Yeah, she's just, if you haven't watched The United States of Tara, the TV show,
So good.
do yourself a service and watch that show. It's so good. But before we get into cast and crew, let's hear a message from our pod pals.
Mitra, if you could describe our show in one word, what would it be?
Unrefined.
That's the name of our podcast, so
I
that's
know.
perfect. I'm BJ, and that's Mitra, and we have a podcast called Unrefined. Why don't you tell the people what it's about, Mitra?
It's about paranormal, conspiracies, and just random silliness sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Random silliness is what we do best. But for real, guys, we do like to talk about the paranormal, creepy, spooky things that go bump in the night. Plus, we like to get into some conspiracies every once in a while as well.
We have new episodes premiering every Monday and Wednesday, and special strange stories on Friday.
You can get those episodes wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
Catch us on Paranormal TV Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern.
All right, Jackie, what do we got for cast and crew?
So Bruce Willis was originally supposed to star in another movie under his contract with Disney, but after that project fell through, he agreed to star in The Sixth Sense instead, which is interesting because M. Night Shyamalan said he wrote this with Bruce Willis in mind. So I don't know if it was a happy coincidence. And is that why he did The Kid?
Because he had that weird contract with Disney. Yeah.
It
Making
100%
sense
is.
now.
And I love that, this movie kicked off a partnership with them, because then they did Unbreakable. Was he, I don't know if he was in Glass. I think he was in Glass, which was a sequel. I don't think I didn't see Split. I only saw parts of it. Is Split no, Split is separate, and then there's one where they all come together.
It's Shattered. I don't know. I could be making that up.
It
sounds right.
Haley Joel Osment was the only young actor to wear a tie to his audition. When asked why, he said, "I thought you should look nice when you go to work. This attention to detail impressed M. Night Shyamalan and played a part in his casting."
So sweet. I just keep going back to like how he was in The Boys for like an episode.
Like, right, I remember. Yeah,
Haley Joel.
Yeah.
Oh, he also recently was in What We Do in the Shadows. It's on Hulu. It's like about vampires. It's like a mockumentary style show about like a bunch of vampires living together. But he like was hired on as like they call them familiars, but they were like taking care of the house and everything. So that was really funny. I was like, I'm glad to see that he's like still doing stuff.
Yeah.
Shyamalan has a cameo in the movie as Dr. Hill, the doctor who examines Cole after he has his seizure.
And Willis deliberately toned down his acting. He was speaking in a lower, softer voice to help maintain the film's eerie and subdued atmosphere. Yeah, I had to put on the goddamn captions. I was like, huh? What'd you say? So soft.
Marissa Tomei was considered for the role of Lynn Sear, which ended up going to Toni Collette, who is Australian, but nailed a perfect Philadelphia accent for her role as Cole's mom. She received a lot of praise for her performance, particularly for her emotional range in the scene where Cole reveals his secret.
Yeah, she was great in that. Do you want to do the Michael Cera one? Because you said that he auditioned, but it was actually Liam Aiken that got the role. If you want to do
that one. Okay. As I said earlier, Michael Cera auditioned for the role of Cole Sear, and Liam Aiken was the one who ended up being offered the role, but turned it down, which left the door open. I also wonder what you said about, since he wore a tie to the audition, if they just kept that as part of his character, like to have a fun little quirk that I know he goes to like a school that has like, it looks like a uniformed school, so it looked like it was maybe part of it, but I liked that he kind of always had like a little fun accessory.
Yeah.
It's giving very much Sheldon from Big Bang or the young Sheldon. Marissa Tomei was considered for the role of Lynn Sayre. Like, honestly, I can't see anybody else besides Toni Collette, but I think Marissa Tomei would have done great. But still, this was Tony's to lose, essentially.
And for us elder millennials, that first scene where you're like, is that
Is that
Donnie
Donnie
from
Wahlberg?
NKOTB? Is that Donnie
What?
Wahlberg?
I was shook it.
He played the disturbed former patient, Vincent Gray, and he actually lost 43 pounds for his role. His intense transformation made his performance particularly haunting and unrecognizable from his previous roles. He
And it
did,
was
he ate that scene.
He
He
was one of
did.
the scariest things of this whole movie.
Yeah.
And only what, like 2 to 3 minutes of screen time. So
Yeah.
like he went through a major transformation. I always find it very fascinating when actors do that. And I know it can be really dangerous and a very controversial choice, especially for the doctors that like work with them to essentially become malnourished and over time. But that character I put down, like, is this disheveled, decrepit Donnie Wahlberg in his tidy whities like the scariest thing of this movie? It's a strong start. I'll
It
tell you
is.
that. I would not be okay if I like walked home and he was in my house.
Yeah, that was, I think the breaking and entry part scares me more now as an adult than it did when I was
Definitely.
younger. And it was also his idea to be stripped down in his underwear. So
Ah,
I think that
he's
works.
like, I want the voyeurism. I want people to see me.
Well, yeah, also because like when he's naked, you're like with him just in his underwear,
Yeah.
you see how like small he looks,
Mhm.
and we all know him
He
to
looks
not
like a
be.
child with like a
Yeah,
man's face. Yeah, it was crazy.
it was really creepy. All right, so
You ready?
yeah, I guess so.
My first note is the credits are taking forever.
They sure did.
But the credits have one of my favorite things about this movie, which is a good old-fashioned creepy violin jump scare. The soundtrack to this movie is great, but I think what really provides that like jolting aspect of a jump scare scene is the music that pairs with it. And so when you have me and Kevin kept on trying to replicate the noise last night of like, but it's like a like, like the violin just goes like, but that's when like the title credit scrolls across, and I'll be damned, that noise pops up like periodically throughout the film, and it
Yes.
like gets you every time.
Yes, I agree. The music really did play a huge part because there's so many quiet moments and then these sharp sounds that you're like,
And like you know it's about ghosts, but you don't know when they're gonna show up. So like every time
yes,
that sound plays, you're like, oh, where are they?
yeah.
I also love that the soundtrack spoils the movie because the last track is titled Malcolm's Dead.
But we don't know. Like, I guess if you saw that, and if this movie came out now, it would have never survived. Like,
Yeah.
we would have not known that's the first day.
No.
Although I will say the spoilers for Deadpool, like people kept it pretty secret, at least for like the first week or so,
Yeah.
to get people to go see it and stuff.
Yeah. If I really like something, I will see it within the first 3 days. I feel like
Yeah.
these days there's nothing sacred anymore in terms of like content creation. And I'm going to throw Disney content creators under the bus for a second because they are super guilty of doing this. We're now at the point where people go to the theater and are like recording the movie. And then the next day they're like, here are my top 10 favorite lines from Inside Out 2. I'm like, dude, give me a second.
Yeah.
And they're like, and then, or they're doing like, this is my reaction watching the movie. It's intense and so silly. But yeah, I digress. I feel like the image though of someone going in 1999 to like a Sam Goody or a Suncoast or a Tower Records to be like, I really want this album and have it on like a CD or like a cassette maybe.
But like from the perspective, like it could have been that he dies, not that he was been dead the whole time. So
That's true.
kind of, but I see, like, I feel like M. Night Shyamalan making this movie was fucking stressed. Okay? The man was stressed because they tried so hard to like make sure that the cat did get out of the bag, that nobody knew about this like surprise twist.
Yeah.
And then guess what happens to him? The Blair Witch Project comes out. Right? Like a week before The Sixth Sense. And so in his mind, he's thinking, okay, there hasn't been a genre twisting, like, scary movie out in a long time. There really hasn't. And at this time, we had the upswing of the slashers, but this is going back to like the roots of a scary movie. So just a week before The Sixth Sense is released, The Blair Witch smashed box office records with a very small budget. And he was like, oh man, I thought we're never going to get any box office. Like, my last two movies, nobody on the planet saw them. I thought, I can't believe it's happening again. Like, stressed. Okay.
Yeah.
And sure didn't help that he knew the Disney execs weren't really supportive, or thinking that it had a chance. So poor M. Night going through it.
Yeah. I mean, at least they were
Everything-
two like very different movies and
Yeah.
advertised very differently.
Yeah.
At least everything worked out for you, M. Night.
For that movie.
For this movie, yeah.
Yes, for this movie.
But it's been a real battle. That poor man. But also,
Yeah.
motherfucker, why? Avatar: The Last Airbender never should have touched it. I don't know what the fuck happened. But if I see you in the streets, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. I don't care. Sorry. Not sorry. Unless you want to be on the show, and I think you're one of the greatest directors of our generation.
Also, did not realize that Kathleen Kennedy was attached to this movie.
Yeah, she's probably at Disney at that time.
Yeah,
So that makes
like
sense.
it just 2 and 2, and then I pointed it out, and then Ken got on his high horse about how he hates Kathleen Kennedy. So it was a whole thing.
Yeah, the Star Wars boys really don't like her.
So the movie starts out, they are celebrating that Malcolm has won this prestigious award from the city of Philadelphia for his work in child psychology. And so they're celebrating with wine, talking about the price of the frame, just couple shit.
Getting a little saucy.
So they head upstairs and they hear something like a glass, like something's breaking. And so they go upstairs into their bedroom. And this is where we get Donnie Wahlberg in his tidy whities. And he's in distress, and he's kind of talking in circles, and we kind of glean that Malcolm was his psychiatrist when he was a child, and he just talks about how like he didn't really help him, and then he shoots Malcolm and the scene ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie started off super strong.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that Vincent says that's so haunting is he asked the question, do you know why you're afraid when you're alone? And that's a great icebreaker question,
Yeah.
I think, to ask for any group of people. But I mean, gosh, yeah, this movie starts off so strong where you have like your main protagonist going through something really scary and traumatic, and you're like led to believe that he survives, but his like confidence now is shaken, and that he like, okay, am I still like a good doctor? Do I still have what it takes? Can I still help kids?
Yeah.
Honestly, I was just like, why is no one? I remember watching the first time thinking, oh, so we just glossing over that this motherfucker got shot? We just continuing on. We
Yeah.
are not talking about it. And I question the fact that like, because his wife seems so distant, and it seems like they're fighting. And I'm like, I don't understand. You just got shot. And you did it protecting her. Like, math's not adding up. What's going on? Did we miss something? So I was like, you know what? He did.
After this scene, Ken turned to me and showed me his arm and said, "Goosebumps everywhere." So starting off real strong with the fear in success. And so it's the next fall. Malcolm seems kind of downtrodden. He's sitting on a bench, kind of observing Cole from afar, and just kind of seeing what he does. Cole ends up going into this church behind me, and red is a recurring symbol throughout the film, representing the connection between the living and the dead. It's used sparingly and only to highlight key moments and objects that signal the presence of the supernatural. So that was another thing that like on rewatch, like you start taking note of anytime you see the color red. And M. Night was very diligent in ensuring that no red was nowhere else in the movie to make those pops of color stand out.
Yeah,
it
everything else
worked.
was pretty muted. And so like those instances and bursts of red were and that was something that I actually took notice of for the first time, that I like brought out my phone and was like, is red symbolism in The Sixth Sense? And I was like, oh, it sure is.
One of the things that it finally clicked for me was one of the reasons that, not just because, what's the little boy's name again? Cole. Not because Cole can see ghosts, just because he can see ghosts, but I also think that Cole must have been scheduled to be on his docket as a patient.
Mhm.
And it's like his unfinished business. Like one of the reasons, not just his wife, but like because he's so dedicated to helping children, it's almost like he feels bad that his death is preventing him helping this child. And so I think that's also another reason. And maybe that was like everyone understood that already, but that was like one of my thoughts about.
Well, and I think it was to right the wrong that happened in Vincent, where he didn't really believe him. And so kind of steer the ship in the right direction with Cole and get him to a place where he can utilize his gift for good and not be afraid of it.
Yeah,
Because
because
later we find out Vincent was like struggling with the same issue or similar issue, right? Like when he's listening to the tape recording. So yeah, I think that's so true, that that's his unfinished business, is working with Cole.
I love that we use Casper verbiage in this. It's a technical term now.
Well, I think it is. I think that they use that in a lot of like supernatural, especially ghost stuff, like Charmed, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like they've all used that verbiage, so I don't think it's too odd.
And then both Vincent and Cole have like a little white patch of hair on the side of their head, which kind of symbolizes that they've been touched by ghosts.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing it all together.
Okay.
So Cole is in the church kind of playing with his little tin soldiers and stuff. And he keeps repeating a Latin phrase over and over again. So Malcolm goes, he can't get into his basement for some reason. Like every time he goes to turn the red doorknob, it's not opening for him. But he's able somehow to get to his stuff, which is in the wine cellar, like his desk and all his books. Also foreshadowing of like
they only see what they want to see.
They only see what they want to see. And like his shit wouldn't have been down in the wine cellar. It would have been moved there after he was dead. But he like dusts off his little Latin dictionary and looks up the phrase, which I didn't write down.
But I think it translates to like, oh Lord, I cry out to thee, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, where is this kid getting like, why is this kid speaking in Latin?
Right.
Then is the breakfast scene, which is very poltergeisty.
Yes, we actually have a term in my house called sixth sensing the cabinets. That actually came from a roommate that I had back when I was doing the Disney college program so many years ago. But I think similar to you, Danielle, there's a touch of something there that's been laying dormant and undiagnosed for many years. And one of those things for me is when I'm putting stuff away or even getting things, I don't close cabinet doors. And so, or if I'm like unloading the dishwasher, I have all the cabinets open so that I can just like, put things go as I pull out. I don't have like a system or a method, or like I don't start in one place and then go to the other. I'm just like beep, 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 beep.
Right.
And so I think one of the times I was in the kitchen, I had like opened up all these cabinets and was doing what I needed to do. And one of my roommates, who's from New Jersey, was just like, why does it look like the goddamn Sixth Sense in here? Why are all these cabinets open? And she was like, so mad. And so now it's like, if I forget to do it, Kevin will be like, oh, we're sixth sensing the cabinets today.
Yeah, Yeah, that scene is so creepy because it happens so quickly. Like, and you
Yes.
could tell Cole has not moved from where he's sitting. And so, like, part of me, because I'm just so paranoid that there is shit, other outer worldly stuff around, that's the first thing I would have thought is there's some motherfucking ghosts in here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I kind of think you feel it. I feel like there's a different feeling that you have when you're in a place that has ghosts.
And I'm
You
like,
have to feel that.
poor
Yeah.
Cole can't even be safe in his own home. Like, I
Right.
get the
know.
angry mom that, like, she may have lived in that apartment before they did, but like
Yeah.
ghosts just be coming to find him, and he has to live in his little red tent, and like the tent isn't even safe, and he has all of the religious relics he's like stolen in there to try and
Yeah.
protect him. Like, it's just so heartbreaking that this kid gets no semblance of peace whatsoever. I'm like, baby, you gotta be sprinkling salt and doing all the shit
Yeah.
and saging your apartment, so at least you're safe in your home.
Right.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of rules,
Yeah.
but there are rules for
Yes.
the dead people in the sense that let me find it because I thought this was really interesting.
Because they can
Um,
travel far. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
that too, that woman maybe had lived in that place before them, but like all the other ghosts that pop up, I'm like, they're just seeking him out at this point. This
Yeah.
point, like he probably
Right.
hasn't had a decent night's sleep ever.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. So Shyamalan had 3 rules for the ghosts in the movie. 1, they don't know that they're dead.
Mhm.
2, like you guys said, they see what they want to see. And 3, they're drawn to Cole because they need his help. But the 4th rule is my office hours are from 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday.
And you can't be just appearing and scaring the shit out of me puking on
Right.
yourself.
You gotta not,
Yeah. Let
you
me
gotta
pee
do
in
something.
peace.
Yes. I also at one point questioned if the puppy was a ghost because
Yeah.
like
it's
no
not
one was
funny.
really interacting with him, and the mom kept
Yeah.
throwing clothes on him and stuff, and Ken's like, no, the dog's dead. I'm like, is the dog dead and it's just been living in this house forever? But then the mom is like coaxing him out of the closet at one point, and his name is Sebastian, and then I felt a lot better that this poor dog isn't a dead puppy.
Yes,
I
God,
worry about in
yes,
movies.
God forbid all these dead people, but the dog is dead.
Mm.
We can't have
You
it.
lost me.
Yeah.
Oh my
Now
God.
it's Pet Cemetery. It's a different thing now.
Right. So
Um,
a favorite of mine in the early like 90s.
Mhm.
But I digress. So Cole goes to school. I don't know how he convinces the kid with the cough syrup commercial to like pretend to be his friend because he doesn't have any money to pay him.
maybe one of the ghosts told him a secret or something. I'm not really sure, but the
But Cole,
kid is an
go ahead.
asshole.
Yes.
Tommy Tomasino can Tommy Thomas suck my dick. Okay.
Yes.
This kid was a bully. He was mean. They pushed him into that closet.
Yes.
The
So
birthday
scary.
party. He was such a beehole. Ugh, yeah. Like kid on kid violence always like makes me really upset and angry and sad. But I don't know like what their relationship was, or he was just like maybe his mom had asked, like called his other mom, like, hey, can they walk together or something
Yeah.
like that? I don't know.
Or practicing his acting by being not a douchebag. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But the
Um,
mom knew that he was bullying him, so something must have happened.
yeah.
He must have
Yeah.
gotten in trouble, and so he's trying to pretend that they're cool.
Yeah.
So Cole gets home from school, and this is a scene where Malcolm and the mom are sitting in like armchairs next to each
Mhm.
other. And so Cole walks in, and the shot set up where like the doors in between the two chairs. And mom kind of gets up and does the, hey, how was school? Let me go fix you a snack type thing. And she leaves the room. And for a while, Malcolm is talking and Cole is silent.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, is this like he doesn't want to talk because he doesn't want his mom to hear him, like essentially talking to himself?
Yeah.
But But then later in the scene, he starts talking to Malcolm a little bit.
Yeah. And I think the mom is used to him talking to himself because he does it a lot. Well, what
He
she
was kind of an aloof
perceives.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think he had said something, whether it was within that session or a separate conversation later, but he was like, he was worried that like his mom, we all know, like, do you think badly of me? Are you afraid of me? Are you mad at me? Like that,
Yeah.
such a typical like people pleaser, like, and wanting to like have that close relationship with your parent, but you're like struggling with this big thing, right? So I think he was so concerned of his mom like thinking so badly of him. But again, like as viewers watching it that first time through, you think, oh, she just had like a preliminary like one-on-one session with him, and he like knows about him or whatever.
Everyone in his life, including his teacher at one point, calls him a freak. And I think he doesn't want his mom to think that of him. So he tries to protect her at all costs.
Yeah.
Plus, she's the only person he has left. So you could see that desperation within him that he doesn't, and he must have abandonment issues because of the dad too. So he's like terrified at this point that the one parent he does have may look at him differently. Plus, his grandma just died. So there's a lot at stake, and he's very, very worried.
Yeah. The filming in this scene is great too. I love the way that it's like set up, like you said, Jackie, with like how the camera is angled in both ways. But when they're playing the like step forward, step back game, the way that the like room kind of like moves and stretches with you is so clever.
Definitely.
And then the next scene is the scene where Danielle knew she was seeing dead people. Where Malcolm meets his wife for their anniversary dinner. She seems pissed at him, won't look at him or talk to him. She does glance up at him for a brief second, which I think was also very clever in kind of masking the fact that like he wasn't really there. She was just happened to glance that way.
Yeah.
But he goes to reach for the check. He's late in his mind. And so he thinks that's the reason why she's mad at him. But she grabs the check first, pays, gets up and leaves. She is wearing like a wine-colored dress in this scene.
And she also says happy anniversary. So like,
yeah, like very coldly.
Yeah.
And then Cole's mom is cleaning with her sporty Sony headphones.
God, I love that look so much. Her messy buns, her little like in-home sweatsuit, and the headphones it's such a great look. Her red nails, everything Toni Collette did, like every outfit she wore, I was like, oh, amazing.
What I love the most is that she's wearing a wig. And
that's right.
Yeah, she's wearing a wig, and pretty much she sent in her audition tape and she had shaved her head. I guess it must have been for like another project or just, I don't know, personal. I'm not really sure. But M. Night was like super scared that if the producers found out that she was like bald, that at the time that they wouldn't let her like be a part of the movie. So he didn't show them the audition tape and she had to get a wig. But they didn't have a wig on set, so she brought her own wig from another movie set, which I think is like Velvet Goldmine that she was in.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, damn, I love that wig.
Yeah.
It looked great on her. Love that color.
Yeah.
So now she's cleaning and she has this wall of like her baby boy, but she notices there's like this orb cast next to him in every photo. And so she just kind of looks at the photos and kind of notes it, but doesn't do much with that information. But we know that he sees dead people. So we know that that's his gift.
Well, when I went on that ghost tour in New Orleans, remember I told you, and they told us to just take pictures wherever we went. And all of my pictures had fucking orbs and heads and what stuff. And when I saw that scene, I was like, that's it.
No
That's
way.
it. Yep.
What kind of, was it like with your iPhone?
First of all, I'm Android all the way, baby.
Okay.
But it was with my phone.
Like a camera phone, yeah.
Yeah, all of my friends, we were all taking pictures, going on this ghost tour. And when we got back, we got all in, cuddled in the bed, like, let's look at our pictures. And of course, fucking ghost whisperer me has fucking orbs and shit all
Oh
throughout
my
my
gosh.
pictures.
Did you feel that energy when you walked through?
I started getting scared and nervous in some parts and some parts not so much.
Mm.
When we did the house, like that from American Horror
Oh,
Story.
from Coven.
Yes, Misery. What's the
Oh,
actress?
Kathy Bates. The
Kathy Bates's character.
LaCroix family. Yeah.
So that house that's based on that family,
Yeah, that's really bad.
they got kicked out of the city and ran out of the city. And when they fled, people thought there was ghosts in there because they kept hearing all these noises. Turns out that they just had a bunch of their slaves locked
Yeah.
up with animal heads and stuff on them, like real animals and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Oh.
So when I took a picture of the front door of that house, I had orbs, but one of the orbs looked like there was cat ears. Girl, fucking scared.
Post that slideshow, please. If you feel if it's appropriate, I want to see the orb.
I think I have the picture from the nuns I don't know if I have the other ones because I think the phone I took the pictures on, like, it broke, and I think I only had like one or two of the pictures that I maybe sent to someone or was saved in my Google Drive. Creepy.
Yeah.
Anywho, so she sees orbs. Wasn't there something else that triggered her?
Yes, we kind of hear voiceover of Malcolm in one of his sessions with Cole, and he was like, have you ever done free association writing? And she finds his free association writing where he calls them upset words. Mom found my upset words, and it kind of freaked her out. And that was also done in red ink.
I thought it was orange, but now red makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
I wasn't sure if that was like him writing through the spirits, like that's what the spirits were kind of telling him to say, like if he was like visited by people who are clearly angry, right? Or have that are upset about something. But when you like pause to look at it, similarly when going back and watching Seven, remember when we were talking about how like someone wrote in all of those freaking composition notebooks, like when you actually pause it and read some of the things that's on there, it's like, woo, ay.
I wonder if the ghosts actually wrote them themselves, because we do notice later that Malcolm being extremely angry because his wife looks like she's having a intimate moment with someone she works with.
Yeah.
That the glass breaks. So you have to assume that if the ghost is very angry, they can actually make, touch
they can like
things.
Touch items.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they clawed Cole when he's locked in the closet with them.
Yeah.
And like scratch him and stuff.
But I wasn't sure if that was possible because he just has the gift, like he's different, but like the material things, I'm wondering if they can actually touch it if they're extremely emotional in some way.
Yeah.
So now we are in school with Cole. His teacher is doing a history lesson about the building that the school is taking place in. It used to be the old courthouse. And Cole is trying to say, yeah, they used to hang people here. And of course, the very white teacher is like, that never happened. These were like people of the law. And Cole's like, bitch, I see them. And then it devolves into he knows a secret about his teacher. He used to be bullied for his stuttering, and kind of spirals and starts
screaming, stuttering Stanley. Oh my God.
But the first way that he says it, it's such an you're stuttering Stanley. Like it's the little like comeback. I'm like, we don't make fun of people for that.
Yeah.
But I think that was a line that I would quote from time to time. Like if someone was annoying me, I'd be like, you're stuttering Stanley.
But that teacher was
a
shook.
dick.
He was
Oh,
shook though,
and
because he
shook.
was like, "How'd you find that out? Who
Yeah.
told you? Who you talking to?" Like, he
And then
was-
it like makes him revert to stuttering, and then that's
Yes.
when the teacher calls him a freak. Like, this poor boy can't catch a damn break. So Malcolm comes home to his wife. Oh, she's in bed, but the wedding video is playing downstairs, their wedding video. And then he sees that she has a prescription for Zoloft,
Oh yeah.
which is also red.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And then she like gets chilly when he goes upstairs, another indicator that ghosties are around, aka
Yeah.
it's you, Malcolm.
Yeah. She's always like, she always has a blanket or a
Yeah.
shawl, and she'll like get all chilly when he's around.
And then the next scene is Cole is invited to a birthday party. We see a red balloon float up through the spiral staircase, and he hears voices from an upstairs closet. Cole, being a child, goes to investigate instead of being like, I'm going to go the opposite way
Yeah,
of the creepy
right.
voices because I know ghosts attack me sometimes. And then Tommy and company shove him in said closet, and he's just screaming, screaming, screaming. The mom is so happy. Cole's mom is so happy that he's invited to this birthday party
Yeah.
and is included, and then finds her child locked in a closet she can't get into, and everyone is just staring at her.
they're just
No one,
staring. No one's
That-
helping. There's no sense of
no.
urgency.
Yeah.
This scene is actually really traumatic and kind of like hard to watch.
yes,
And she's
Because
like,
she turns around, she's like, why isn't anyone helping me? Like
Yeah.
she asks for it.
and she tries to even ask for a key, but it's like she can't even get the words out. At first, she's trying. You could tell she's scared, but she's also trying not to make a scene at first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there ain't no way. I'd have kicked that door down by then. But
Yeah.
like the fact that she's trying to open the door, and then then it gets quiet, and then the door kind of releases and she can get in. But one of the moms just like grabs her son and is just like holding him. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, y'all, it's not like they can't hear him screaming.
yeah,
Mhm.
Whether or not you believe that he's doing this for attention or whatever bullshit you think of,
the door is locked. You can
Right.
see that the door is locked, and Cole's mom is trying to keep him calm and like, I'm here, I'm trying to get in, while like secretly panicking because she cannot get the fucking door open and no one's helping her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that scene alone. She should have won the Oscar.
Right.
I
And then
know,
on
just
top of that,
little-
she's going through all that. She takes her son to the hospital, and the doctor is
accuse her.
literally accusing her of child abuse,
Yeah.
which I can't blame him. Like, you have to take these things seriously that you bring in this kid. Seems like something traumatic happened, and he has like all these scars and stuff and
Yeah.
marks. You have to investigate that. But she is pissed.
Yeah.
And then this is when Malcolm goes into his room. This is where we get the very infamous scene, highly quoted, highly replicated, I See Dead People, which was
Mhm.
ranked number 44 on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Movie Quotes list.
Yeah.
And then,
I
but like, I think the rest of the conversation is as important as the I See Dead People, which is like the iconic part of it.
Yeah.
But he goes on to say, like, all the time walking around like regular people, they don't know that they're dead.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he talks about, doesn't he talk about how cold it gets when they're around? Or do we just see that, like, the
That
breath?
happens a little bit later after the
Mhm.
school play when he sees the people like hanging from the auditorium.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I think that it's also a really good conversation that he has with Dr. Malcolm, in that like you can see that he's kind of trying to like figure out what his deal is, because he's like, you're sad, like you seem sad, and he's like, what tells you that? He's like, your
Yeah.
eyes told me. Like, so they have, besides Dr. Malcolm telling this terrible story about driving that goes nowhere, and then
Yeah.
he's just like, I don't think you're good at this, let's remix the conversation here. But He's like, we're done. Can I tell you my secret now? But I think it's so great because it also sets up like the boundaries for the rest of the movie. This is like where we get the rules of like, now we know like where, why, when ghosts might appear for whatever reason.
Right. Because prior to this, we don't see any ghosts. But
Yeah.
after he says, now they're popping up every fucking way. So we are now Cole at this point.
Yes.
Like before
It
this,
was almost a full hour before the
Yeah.
first actual ghost, Malcolm aside,
Yeah.
pops up.
I think it's almost like a split because the beginning, we are walking through this world essentially through Dr. Malcolm's eyes. Like we're seeing it through his perspective. And then we start getting some of Cole's perspective. We kind of understand like what's going on with his home life. But the minute he says his secret, we now are looking at things from Cole's lens, which is very, very cool because now we can see all the shit that he's going through. And we're like, we don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want this motherfucker popping out anymore.
Well,
Like-
and Ken pointed out, which I had never realized, the very first scene where he meets Malcolm in the church, he's like, I'm going to see you again, aren't I? So Cole already knows Malcolm's dead and he has to help him, but he's a friendly ghost. So he's not really scared of him or put off by him, especially after like he realizes Malcolm is like trying to help him essentially. And then at the end, Cole says, I'm not going to see you again, am I? And so like he realizes he's helped Malcolm through his unfinished business and he's ready to move on.
But in the scene when he says, I see dead people, you do see his breath. And apparently every time this happens, it's not CGI, like that icy breath situation.
Practical effects.
Which I always love because it ends up coming out a little bit more real. But for him as a child, I also was like, damn, that's horrible because what they did was they would drape this like huge plastic sheeting over the sets and then pump in freezing cold air. So it would be below freezing and you could see our breath. Ain't no way. Y'all better CG the fuck out of this because I'm not doing it. Not cool.
So, like you said, this is when we start seeing all the ghosties. They mostly appear at night in his fucking bedroom.
Yeah.
We see the angry mother.
This scene in the theater, I think, is like forever ingrained in my brain because that's one of my favorite things about going to see a scary movie in the theater is that like community jump scare aspect of it. We went as a whole damn family. And so it was like me, my sister, parent sitting in the row. And I can see the peripheral vision when the ghost like books it across the hallway. And then we get our favorite violin, like, jump scare. And my mom, who was holding the popcorn, went Christ. Like the whole audience was like, whoa, you know, it was one of those really great like shared experiences.
I love that. Like, we have a couple of those, like knocking popcorn out of the way to get out of the theater type of panic situations that we love to tell at parties. So we get a couple of scenes, we get a shot of like the thermostat dropping. We're like, oh, here we fucking go again. The kid found his dad's gun and the back of his head's blown out. Like, it's just a lot of seeing what Cole is dealing with all the time.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, after the school play, Cole is walking through the school with Malcolm, but then he stops and freezes because he sees all of the people hanging in the school, which used to be an old courthouse. And then we get more exposition about like a lot of them are mad and I just want them to go away. And it gets really cold when they're around. So we find out more about like what he experiences when he encounters these ghosts.
But Malcolm is like, I'm out this bitch. Like after that conversation, he's like, you know, I don't really believe in this shit. I'm not.
Yeah, he was like possible hospitalization.
Yeah.
Gets like
hallucinations.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's ready to give up.
Yeah. And then we get the scene where mom is accusing Cole of stealing her mother's bumblebee pendant and putting it in his drawer. And he's still guarding his secret. So he's not, but he's also being truthful as he can be. And he's like, I didn't
Yeah.
take it. And his mom is just like, there's only fucking 2 of us in this house.
Right.
Mhm.
It's heart-wrenching because you
Yeah.
see him process that. Like, you see him take a deep breath and you could see that he's trying to make a decision.
Yeah.
Do I lie
Yeah.
or do I tell the truth? And knowing the repercussions of telling the truth and that she's not going to believe me. And
Yeah.
just watching him process that, her getting upset with him feeling so upset is heart-wrenching. Like, I thought that I did tear up during that scene.
Yes. When she was like, I'm tired in my mind and my body and my heart, and she's
Yeah.
trying to like explain to him, like, I want to help you, but I'm not sure how. But the way that it's, again, the delivery is so not like, I'm not blaming you for like, it's
Yeah.
because of you that our family is falling apart.
Right.
She's like genuinely so concerned and so sad for her kid.
Yeah.
And the scene directly after this where he tries to go in his room, he's upset, and then here comes some more motherfucking ghosts fucking around, and he's so scared. He goes and I cried so hard
He's like,
when
if
he
you're
goes,
not very mad.
yeah, and when the fact that he calls her mama.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Oh,
that scene was so hard, so sad.
but the way she reacts to him as well is like, I wish all moms were like this,
Yeah.
because she said,
Yes.
look, she's like, look at my face. I'm there's no way I'm mad. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not mad enough that you can't like sleep in the room. And then when
Mhm.
she holds him, he's like, you're shaking, and you could see her face like breaking because she doesn't know what the fuck is wrong or like
Yeah.
how to help.
Yeah.
It's so heart-wrenching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the next scene is Malcolm's wife. She works in an antique store. She sells a ring. It's weird.
I'm a hustler,
Yeah.
baby. Because that's all she's doing is hustling this couple to
Yeah.
buy this fucking crazy ass expensive ring.
What speaks to you?
Right. She got bills to pay. My husband's dead. I got a mortgage to pay. Come get this blood diamond ASAP.
And I mean, she makes a sale.
Yeah, she does.
And we've seen this guy kind of be around, and she's kind of keeping him at arm's length, but it's his birthday. She gives him a first edition copy of a book, and then they kind of share an intimate moment where like they're touching heads and just embracing. And then we hear the window shatter and we see Malcolm walking away. So obviously Malcolm has seen this intimate moment and been upset. It's implied that like he punched the window or something. And then he talks about he just wants to be able to talk to his wife again. And Cole
Yeah.
suggests talk to her in her sleep where she'll listen. And then Malcolm goes back to his recordings of his sessions with Vincent and starts rewinding and listening. And there's one session where he has to leave the room for a few minutes. And while Vincent's fine when he leaves the room, and then he comes back and Vincent's very upset. And so he kind of listens to the piece while he's out of the room. And you can see someone, or you can hear someone in Spanish just saying, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And that's where it clicks for Malcolm. Vincent could also see and talk to dead people.
Mhm.
And that's where he failed. Vincent was not believing him.
Right.
And so he starts to think about how he can help Cole in this situation.
And then he realizes that the ghosts probably have unfinished business and they probably coming to Cole for help. And so he says to Cole, I was going to kind of give up on you, but by the way, I think I've figured it out, kiddo. I think you just need to listen to them and see what they need help with. And Cole is so brave. He's so brave.
So brave. Because
Yeah.
enter Marissa Cooper puking on herself.
I love
All
surprise
that.
Misha Barton. But I also wonder, I was like, did he help him or did he enable him to become even more of a people pleaser? He's like, hear me out. Instead of setting your boundaries with these ghosts, why don't you just be like, oh, tell me what's wrong. How can I help? What can I do to
Right.
support you
And
through
in
this
my
difficult
mind,
time?
there's just like a line of ghosts now lining up
Yes.
for
But they
Cole to
were-
help them.
But they were coming regardless. Come
That's
on,
true.
guys. They were there already. So instead of seeing gunshot wound pop up whatever the fuck he wants, let me find out what he wants. Let's get some rapport going. Let me let him know, bitch, you dead.
Yeah.
So that you can mosey on and knock before you come in. Like, we just have to set up a
Boundaries.
rapport and then some boundaries. Right.
Yeah.
So I think he's once he starts doing this, he's in a much better play. He's
He is.
literally in a play.
Yeah.
He's having a good
This is
time.
true. So his first attempt at helping ghosts is a little girl named Kira shows up. She's puking. She's very ill. They show up to her funeral or after her funeral back at her house. And you kind of hear that she had been sick a lot
About
and she had
2 years in bed.
yeah. And her little sister has started now showing symptoms of the same mystery illness. And so we find out the mom has Munchausen by proxy and has been poisoning her children. And Kira had secretly recorded her dumping, like, it was like drain cleaner or something in her
Yeah, it was
soup.
like some kind of like cleaning solution.
Yeah.
But like the fact that she like didn't do that downstairs and like
Yeah.
was so bold enough like at that point of like making her sick to come in, set the tray down, go back, grab this bottle, add in a capful or whatever, and then have the nerve to be like, and don't tell me it tastes bad. I
Yeah.
hate when you do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
But the fact that she was like, I feel better today. Like, I'm good. And
Yes.
I think it's because I'm not eating this bullshit.
Yeah.
yeah. If I could change anything about this movie, it would be I am missing the riot at this funeral.
Yes.
Because she 100%
If he's
should have
popping in
got
that
jumped.
VHS player and half of your room turns around and sees what you did, and all people do is just have the audacity to go and like look at the mom as he's accusing of her. Like, no, I want the pitchforks. I want someone coming for her. I want the cops being called. I want like everyone
At
at this
least
woman's
one
throat.
punch in the face.
I
Like,
think this is a WASP funeral.
What's that?
Because, white Anglican.
Oh,
Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
I'm thinking that's
Their
why.
rage is deep down.
Yes. It's all about decorum, essentially. But I'll tell you one thing. I don't know. I'm not even just saying a black family, but my mother finds out somebody was doing like any one of my parents were doing that to me, jumped on site,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
dead on site. Ain't no trial. She dead.
No, she's
But-
dead.
Cole has a sense of purpose now. Like, he saved this other little girl from the same fate because the mom was starting to do it to her. So he feels good in the fact that he's helped this ghost get closure and also helped a living person as well not suffer the same illness. Danielle,
So yeah, Cole feels great that he was able to help, and I'm assuming she dissipated, went to the light. I
Yeah.
don't really know. But also the bus ride to get there, he was like, wow, she traveled far to come see me. So
Yeah.
that was interesting. So like they're coming far and wide now.
Yeah.
Throwing up oatmeal in my fucking house.
I think they said the mixture was between, it was like mushed bananas and like a little bit of like chunky cereal to like give it that texture. But something that would be like pleasant to like have in your mouth and like spit it out.
It made me want to vomit for sure.
It is nasty. And also the picture that you have behind you, Danielle, is like one of my other favorite jump scares because it's like a legitimate fear of someone reaching out from under their bed and like grabbing you by the ankle.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so scary.
But it's so sad that she had that video and she didn't have time to give it to her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so, but then we see like Cole is in a much better spot. He's getting makeup advice from the burned teacher ghost at the play. Like he's kind of making these partnerships and almost seems like friendships or
Yeah.
allyships with the ghosts now as he helps them with their unfinished business. He's more extroverted. He gets a pretty big role in the play and he gets to pull the sword from the stone.
They get to call Tommy Tomasino a village idiot.
He
So
does.
satisfying. I also love how this movie has not one but two school plays to be funding the arts more. And with like really well-made props and costumes, might I add.
Mhm.
Again, I don't know if it's like if that's a private school because they have the uniforms and stuff. But yeah, I love that he gets his moment.
Yeah. And then this is the point where he asked Malcolm, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, am I?
Mhm.
Or not going to see you anymore. Malcolm encourages him to tell his mom and just communicate with her. Like, let her know what's going on and just communicate so that she's not in the dark and just worried about you all the time,
Right.
especially now that you're kind of in a better place.
Because there's a scene where you see her having a night terror and
Yeah.
Cole tries to like calm her down. So
Yeah.
he already is aware that she's struggling with this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he does this by way of they're stuck in traffic because there's been an accident.
Mm.
And she's just kind of wondering out loud, I hope nobody's hurt, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, someone is hurt. They actually died. And I love that her reaction is all of our reactions, which is like, can you see something? Like what?
Right.
Yeah. Looky Lou. She's like, what?
Yeah. And he's like, no, she's standing outside my window. I can see dead people, blah, blah, blah. And at first she's just kind of like, what? But then to prove it to her, he talks about how grandma sometimes comes to visit him. She loves the bumblebee pendant. That's why she takes it out of your closet. And he said, the question that you asked at her gravesite, her answer is all the time.
I fucking boo-hoo cried
Boo-hoo crying
during this scene because then he asked her what the question was and she said, I asked if she was proud of me. And
Yeah.
so the answer being all the time, I'm like boohoo crying, and then
Yeah.
also saying, is grandma part of the Bayhive? And I'm very happy with all of this.
And then Malcolm goes home and takes Cole's advice and starts talking to his wife in her sleep. She's fallen asleep watching their wedding video. And then you see her breath gets icy and she drops something, which is his wedding ring. And then he does this flashback of all of the instances where he thought she was just mad at him or ignoring him. And really it was because he did not survive the gunshot from the previous fall.
You did. Malcolm, you did.
Yeah.
Malcolm in the middle, literally.
Stuck between worlds. He's in the middle.
Yes.
He can't transcend. He cannot move on. The shot of that too, because he's kind of like leaned up against the wall and
Mhm.
he's like hugging his stomach, but then it like flips back to when he's on the bed. Great camera work there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then like in the movie, he's always wearing items he wore or touched the evening before his death, including his overcoat, his rowing sweatshirt, and the different layers of his suit. So like the other ghosts, you probably would have seen his exit wound if he hadn't been wearing layers every time you saw him, because it was a small entry wound
Yeah.
that we see. And so he does tell his wife that he needed to help someone, but you were never second, you were always first. And so he kind of has closure with her. She does say, I miss you. And then it fades to white, and then it's the credits. And then, did y'all watch this on HBO Max?
Yes.
didn't immediately come up with like suggestions, and it was like comfort viewing, The Big Bang Theory. I was like, oh.
No, I didn't see that part. I like immediately was like, click, I'm out. I'm not,
And I was
not
like,
watching
oh,
anymore.
HBO knows what the people want, because it's always like, I know for me watching a horror movie, I always like to watch something happy or
Mm,
light after a horror movie, just so it doesn't seep into my dreams.
mhm.
So I was like, oh, you got your finger on the pulse. We
Right.
did it. That is The Sixth Sense. We saw dead people.
We
We
did. We saw a lot of
sure
them.
freaking did. A few things about the script. Shyamalan revealed that the earliest seeds of the film were planted by his own experience watching a child play alone at a wake. I saw a wake at a house and the food's out and people are walking around in dark clothes and this child was sitting on the stairs talking to somebody, but nobody is there. So, yeah.
He also did say that classic ghost stories and films like Poltergeist and The Haunting were inspirations for the eerie atmosphere and psychological horror. He also talked about the Tale of the Dream Girl from Nickelodeon's Are You Afraid of the Dark was an
Oh,
inspiration for the
yeah.
film.
Hmm.
That was, if I remember correctly, because that's one of my favorite like old Nickelodeon episodes. Tale of the Dream Girl was the one where she's like getting ready for prom
Hmm.
and she's like a ghost at this high school and the guy like asks her to prom, picks her up, but she was like waiting for her like boyfriend to get her, and then they get in like a car accident or something.
Yep.
Yep. God, I love that show. It's one of my favorites.
He also spent a whole year wrestling with the screenplay, which went through 10 drafts. And in the first draft, could you imagine? The hero isn't Dr. Malcolm Crowe, a child psychologist. He's Malcolm Crowe, grizzled crime scene photographer. And the kid who can see ghosts is his own son.
Hmm.
So that would have been interesting, which is very similar to what I believe to be a better film. And now I have to go back and watch it, which was Stir of Echoes, that came out the same year as this movie. It's a
Yep.
twin movie, essentially.
Yeah. Location filming took place mostly in the streets and buildings of Philadelphia. I didn't do it on purpose, but I have my Philadelphia mug.
Aw.
Including St. Augustine's Church on 4th and new streets in Old City and on St. Albans Street in Southwest Center City.
And M. Night initially wrote an ending where Dr. Malcolm does help Cole come to terms with his abilities, but after further reflection, he decided the twist ending would be more impactful.
And
Which-
it was a cultural
It was.
phenomenon.
Yeah, I don't think it would have hit the same if he was just like, okay, well, you're good with the ghosts. I'll see ya. I'm out.
Yeah. I mean, this movie is talked about, weirdly enough, a lot in my household. In that, like, whenever I bring it up or whenever it is brought up, my dad always has the same reaction, which is like, Sixth Sense, I love that movie. He was dead the whole time. Great ending. One of the best movies. Like, you know, like he has like his favorite little like 6 lines that he says. And this movie is usually in my annual like Halloween October rotation. It's also a safe movie that Kevin will watch. And it like I just that twist was so, I think, cleverly done. And just in general, this movie, I really don't have a lot of bad things to say about it
Yeah.
overall. And I think it like withstands the test of time.
Yep.
Besides the VHS tape, like there's not a lot of things that like date it. I think it can easily be redone in modern times with like the same kind of recipe and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just so much more than a ghost movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
It-
love that it's become like a cultural thing. Like even in 50 First Dates, it's like she buys it for her dad for his birthday, and then they have to watch it every night and act surprised every night when it's revealed that he's been dead the whole time. Like I just
Yes.
love things like that where it's so woven into the tapestry of film now
Yeah.
that it's referenced all of the time.
just pop culture in general. I mean, like literally in the roasting of Drake this summer, we have Kendrick Lamar starting out one of his diss tracks saying, "I see dead people," is insane. And what I really wonder, because he's bringing that back to the zeitgeist, to the top of mind for everybody, like Gen Z and even maybe some young millennials, I wonder if they even know what the fuck that means.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or where it's referenced from, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything
else?
I like that. Well, I don't like anytime anyone's marriage is falling apart, but Bruce Willis was dealing with a personal crisis during filming. His marriage to Demi Moore was ending. This real life emotional turmoil helped him tap into the quiet, reflective nature of his character, Malcolm Crowe. So, not happy that his marriage was ending, but at the same time, I think especially that distance between him and his wife that's portrayed on film, I'm sure he was able to garner some of that emotion from real life.
Yeah, and a different pace from what Bruce Willis had normally done.
Yeah.
Being kind of known for shoot 'em up, big action stuff. So I think this role, it sucks that happened, but he was able to clearly channel a lot into that character.
Well, like Jackie said, she used to work at Blockbuster. I mean, we already knew that, but she started right, like this was one of the bigger movies that came out at the start of your career.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so were you seeing them like fly off the shelves?
Yeah, so I
movie?
started working at Blockbuster in September of 1999.
Okay.
So this came out March 28th, 2000 on VHS. And it's just like, I think it was even like 2 bays of shelves were dedicated to The Sixth Sense. I don't think we had DVDs yet, or if we did, it was a very small percentage. It was mostly VHS, but just everyone, like the insanity and the hoopla and the people bringing it back and be like, can't believe the ending. And so it was really exciting to be able to experience that from a video store clerk perspective.
And they did like so much promotion, and it's so wild because now we're getting direct to streaming for video movies that came out like literally last month. So the fact that they did a 6-month online promotion campaign for this movie when it was released on VHS and DVD in March of the following year is crazy. But it also went on to become the top selling DVD of 2000 with more than 2.5 million units shipped and the all-time second best selling DVD title up until then, as well as the top video rental title of all time.
Dang.
And I think the first best-selling DVD title may have been The Matrix, because that came out on DVD a little bit sooner than The Sixth Sense, I think.
Yeah.
I still can't believe I missed seeing that movie in the movies. I saw it on DVD or rented or whatever. Blew my mind. Oh, I love this. Osment was so dedicated to his role that he memorized not just his lines, but the entire script, including the other actors' parts. He would often recite lines from the other scenes during breaks. What a little genius.
Right.
He was so dedicated.
In 2013, the Writers Guild of America ranked the screenplay number 50 on its list of 101 greatest screenplays ever written.
That's amazing. Well, before we get into our present day ratings, just want to remind you guys to check us out at No More Late Fees on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Threads. And we're going to start with you, Simone. What would be your present day rating for The Sixth Sense?
Because this is one that I will watch annually, and to be honest, like I still might watch it in a couple of months from now once we're like in Hollywood or Halloween spooky season. This is still a would buy it again.
Jackie?
I'm gonna go 5 days. I don't see myself watching it on the reg, but like every time I watch it, I enjoy it.
Well, I think I can say a 5-day rental instead of a 2-day rental now. I think I'm over my trauma of figuring it out. like I said, there were a lot of things that I appreciated more about the movie rewatching it. I did drift off and I was a little bored in some parts, but being able to have those emotional ties that we talked about made it a lot better experience for me. But I do think cinematically it's a beautiful film.
Yeah.
Very much so, yeah. Well, if you have any opinions you'd like to share about The Sixth Sense, and I am still waiting for renditions of 1,000 Miles from our White Chicks episode, hit us up at our quick drop 909-601 and MLF. Twat us at the Twitters, hit us at the threads, and you could be featured on a future episode.
And join us next week as we take on the comedy and creature feature that is Evolution.
And Simone, it was a pleasure as always.
Always.
I'm so thankful for how we've been able to stay in touch over the years. And I truly just I nerd out talking about films or music or pop culture in general. But it's, to me, these kinds of conversations are so effortless and fun. Like when you find a movie that you like, or even if you don't love The Sixth Sense, if you find elements of a good film that you can have a really wonderful conversation about, I've always just appreciated that we've been able to do that together. So thank you for having me on and for letting me yap my way through it.
Well, we love having you on, and it's always we have really great guests, but there's some guests that you just it's effortless, and we sometimes I just forget we're even doing a show. It feels like we're just talking.
Yeah. Well, that's high praise. Thank you.
And as always, be kind and rewind.